Hey, greetings. Welcome today. We are talking with Michelle Sandlin, and she is a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed in June of 2021, 16 rounds of chemo, a double mastectomy, and reconstruction. And now she's cancer-free.
Yay!
Yeah, and
Yay!
she's here to share with us her path and her story and the things that she did that helped her best. So let's start out about with your diagnosis. When were you diagnosed and how was it discovered?
Okay, so really, I discovered it myself. I had been having an intermittent pain in my right breast that had been going on for a few weeks. It was not a severe pain, so it was easy to kind of discount it, blame it on other things, and just kind of go about my life. But one night I was laying in bed, unable to sleep, and it was just poking at me, poking at me, poking at me. And so finally, I thought, I'm just going to feel around and see if I can feel anything. And very shockingly, I felt a lump in my right breast. Now it wasn't a huge lump, and at first I wasn't even sure if it was a lump or swelling. I don't know. It was just like such a strange thing to find that your brain isn't even firing on all cylinders. So I somehow managed that night to go back to sleep without waking my husband. I'm not even sure how or why I did that, but I just felt like, look, I just need to go to sleep and see if I feel the same thing tomorrow. And I did feel it the next day, called my doctor, made an appointment, saw him a couple of days later. And then the next day, he sent me for another mammogram. I say another mammogram because I'd had an all clear mammogram just 4.5 months before this. So we got another mammogram, we got an ultrasound, and those two things led to a biopsy, which 4 days later led to my breast cancer diagnosis. And believe me, breast cancer, cancer, all of those things were the last thing I was thinking when I had this pain. Or even when I found the lump, I just thought, oh, well, this must be swelling or something else. I think we all kind of want to put those words like cancer out of our mind as fast as possible.
Yeah, the diagnosis can be really shocking. And so, what did you find most shocking and how did you deal with it?
Well, I would say that all of it's very shocking. I was feeling so overwhelmed and it was impossible to process everything that was happening. To say that it was surreal doesn't even cover it. And even looking back, the whole thing now being on the other side seems, very surreal. And I guess, from my standpoint, I also had all of these misconceptions about, the type of person that gets breast cancer. Certainly it wasn't me, right? I felt like I was doing all the right things. I was eating right. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't do recreational drugs. I was a healthy weight. I mean, I just was convinced that I was the picture of health. And I quickly found out that, none of that matters. Cancer don't care, doesn't care about you, doesn't care about your lifestyle, doesn't care about your family. If you're predisposed for getting breast cancer, you're going to get breast cancer. And that's basically what I found out a few weeks into my treatment, is that I tested positive through genetics testing for the BRCA1 gene mutation, which meant that my risk for getting breast cancer was somewhere between about 55 and 70 odd percent, which is really, really high. And I didn't have a clue that I had that mutation, but it turned out to be, a silver lining, because I found out not just that I had it, but turns out my brother has that mutation, my daughter has that mutation. And so their risk factors also are extremely high. And so back to your question about, how I dealt with all of this, I think, you have about 5 minutes to let it all sink in. And then you just have to get on with it. You have to figure out what you're going to do. You've got, doctors who are ordering this whole, strategy of everything that's going to happen. And for me, My tumor was aggressive. The strategy for treatment was aggressive. So everything was just moving at Mach speed. And so I just tried to set the tone very early on. I should say from the very beginning with my friends and my family that, look, no tears, only positivity. I only wanted to surround myself with uplifting thoughts, uplifting messages. And I was determined that I was going to fight and come through the other side.
Wonderful. So, how did you manage? What did you do to maintain that positive attitude, and what things helped the most?
Yeah. So I think, from the beginning, it was my commitment to staying positive. So there's this sort of mind over matter thing. I was just determined that that was going to be the attitude. And, you look at, receiving a health diagnosis like this and being in a health crisis like this, and immediately you lose control of a lot of things. You lose control of your schedule, your routine, your lifestyle, everything. And so what I really wanted to make sure of is that I was controlling the things that I could control. And of course, being positive, your attitude towards what's happening. I mean, you have all the control over that. You can also control, who's in your life. I think it's very important, who's in your orbit, what's in your orbit, what you're allowing in, what you have to keep at bay. And I didn't want anything or anyone around me that was anything other than positive. We wanted to keep this air of positivity no matter what. And, I think also going back to my workout routine, before having cancer, I'd spent 2 years working out 6 days a week. And I was determined that I was going to maintain some semblance of normalcy as far as my workout routine was concerned. And you asked what helped the most. I would say this probably helped the most, is just having a determination that I was going to keep moving, even if I was moving a lot slower, that I was going to do what I had to do to keep some sort of exercise routine going. And for me, that was heavily dependent on my Peloton. I'm a Peloton bike rider, have been for over 4 years. And I attribute that in the biggest way possible as you can ever imagine. I'm all in with Peloton to keeping me moving and out of the bed some days.
Yeah. So you kept the exercise routine regular. What
Right.
did you what about work? Were you able to continue working? How did that?
The short answer is no. So I guess since about 2014, I have been self-employed as a freelance writer. I had a weekly column in the Houston Chronicle for almost 8 years, and had a whole, long list of clients that I wrote for: articles, white papers, video scripts. I mean, you name it. I've been doing a lot of writing. And almost immediately after my first chemo treatment, I started to experience what they call chemo brain, where you're just not firing on all cylinders. And it starts to happen slowly, and then it picks up speed. And as a writer, the last thing I want to do is be searching for words or not putting the right words in, or just not delivering on what is expected of me and my reputation with my clients. So I pretty much let it all go. And so I really didn't do any writing professionally during that period of time. Of course, I wrote a lot personally, journaling and whatnot, but professionally, I wasn't about to deliver anything other than, what I felt was at the level that it should be for my work.
So what's life like now post cancer?
Yeah, it's a strange thing. A lot of people just assume that because you're cancer free and all of this bad stuff is behind you, that you're okay and that everything's fine. And I think it's important for people to understand, whether they've been through this or not, that, there's days when we're not okay still. We still have this lingering aspect of what our whole life had been. We turned our lives upside down. Our health was at risk. Our mortality was, in our face. And just because, we're cancer free now, or we're in, we're now survivors, whatever, that for those who have been through this journey, there's still a long road ahead. And I don't know that there will ever be a time for me when breast cancer isn't, front and center. And in terms of I guess my lifestyle, I don't know that there have been all that many changes. I mean, I'm still, eating the same kind of diet, with the exception that I've gotten rid of all the processed foods I was eating before cancer. I'm still working out like a maniac, 5-6 days a week. That's so important, no matter where you are in life, what age you are, what your health condition is. You've always got to keep moving. But I think also, in terms of changes I've made, I think it's been a priority shift. There's certain things that you just learn are not important anymore. You have to let them go. Sometimes you have to let people go. You have to, like I said before, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with those people who, love you and are your cheerleaders and support you, and that you don't let toxic elements into your life. I think prior to my breast cancer diagnosis, I'd let all kinds of things that were going on in my life just send me down a terrible, rabbit hole. And I just don't allow that to happen anymore. I mean, like I said, your priorities shift. I was very goal oriented and career oriented. And, I was going to do this in the next 5 years. I was going to do that in the next, 60 days. Now it's more like, it's very compact. I'm happy knowing what I'm doing today, and maybe what I'm doing tomorrow, maybe a week from now. But beyond that, I don't know. I keep things in the very here and now.
Interesting. So I have a question about has the cancer journey changed your relationship with your husband?
Ah, that's an interesting question. I would love to know what his answer is. I would say that right after I was diagnosed, I mean, there became this almost instant realization, or maybe it was, like an agreement between us, that all of this domestic stuff that maybe we used to, squabble about, it was done. And we would have maybe more appreciation for our quality time together. And I guess just knowing, I mean, we've been married for, I have to think about it, 37 years. And that's a long time to be, to be married, to be in a relationship like that. And I think one thing that it really taught me is that sometimes, and this is not unique to me. I heard this somewhere, that sometimes you're the garden, sometimes you're the gardener. And I think I always saw myself as the gardener, and suddenly I'd become the garden. And it was not a role that was comfortable for me, because I'm a control freak and I'm the one calling all the shots, and I like to take care of everything. And suddenly I had to relinquish a lot of that. And so there's a lot of holdover, I think, from that, just in the sense that, you realize that it's okay to lean a little harder when you need to lean a little harder, and to expect more, expect less, to, I don't know, have a whole different give and take system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's like one of the other ladies that I interviewed, she had surgery, and it was uncomfortable to sleep in the same bed with her husband. So even, so they brought a recliner into the bedroom, so they were still in the same room, but she could sleep and not wake him up. And if she had to get up, she could easily do it. And
Right.
so I think that when people go through this, both as an individual and as a partnership, things change and
Yeah.
things, you know, mature maybe is the word I'm looking for. I'm not sure, because
Right.
you really have to reassess what's important.
Well, it's not that we necessarily verbalized this, but absolutely, we both thought I could die. I mean, we didn't think it could happen and we hoped it wouldn't, but there's this part of you and there's this part of him, and that's where you try not to go, but it's a very real understanding that this is this is pretty crazy, pretty up there in terms of what you have to deal with. And you just have this whole new appreciation, I think, for not just the romantic partnership that you have, but just this deep seated um, connection that carries you through tough times like that.
Yeah, definitely. So what is your advice for people who are on this journey?
Well, I think it goes before the journey, and what I mean by that is something that I preach to people every single day, and that's the fact that you always, always, always have to be aware of everything you're feeling in your body. If something is odd or doesn't feel right or you don't feel right, please do not wait. You have to call the doctor right away. I made the mistake. People say, don't look at it. Don't, second guess yourself. Don't think of it as a mistake. But I do, that I knew better than to wait several weeks before calling the doctor. And I just waited. I kept thinking, nothing's wrong, right? And so I want everybody to know that you cannot wait. If something doesn't feel right, if you don't feel right, please, by all means, call the doctor right away. It's so important. It could save you. Time is of the essence. By the time I had waited, it just been, I think, maybe 4 weeks since I felt the pain, but I was already at stage 2 cancer. I mean, this was an aggressive, fast growing tumor. And I don't know if I'd waited another day, if I'd even be here talking to you. I don't know. The second thing is about asking questions. And of course, not just asking questions, but asking the right questions. And of course, as soon as a person is diagnosed, they don't even know what the questions are. I certainly didn't. But you can rely on other people to help guide you with that. You can ask your doctors and your healthcare professionals, am I asking the right questions? Is there anything more I should be doing or not doing? And just talking to other people, doing your independent research, but make sure you ask a lot of questions. That's a big one. Another thing that really helped me, and I know it's not for everybody, and sometimes when you say the word, they go, well, I don't know, but it's meditation. And for me, this made a huge difference. You just need to be able to stop that freight train of emotions that are going on, calm your thoughts, connect with your own breath, and just be able to breathe. And so it was before being diagnosed that I started to practice meditation, but I really got into it after my diagnosis. And it was sometimes the only way I could sleep at night was by chanting a specific mantra that resonated with me. And so if that's your thing, if you think you could meditate, or even if you think you couldn't, just try it. It could make all the difference in the world. Another thing that helped me, that might help other people, is positive visualization. I would try to think of myself when I was sitting in my, bathroom with no hair, no eyelashes, looking pretty pale and pitiful. I would try to visualize myself with a full head of hair, healthy, doing something that I loved, 5 months into the future or whatever it was. And that really, really helped me. And the exercise thing, the moving, that is so, so important. I mean, at the beginning of my journey, as they say, I was still, holding on to the 45-minute Peloton rides that I'd been doing for, 2 years before. But by the end of my chemo cycle, I was lucky if I could get 10 minutes on the Peloton. But to me, that 10 minutes was better than 10 minutes not on the Peloton. And I think it's so important. And it really, it made a lot of difference for me, because I just feel you have to control what you can, your attitude, your positivity, the people around you, how much you move your body, what you put into your body. All of those things are within your control, because trust me, everything else is going to feel like it's out of your control. So try and focus on the things that you want to do, that you can do, and that makes sense for you.
Yeah. So to kind of reiterate, paying attention to your body,
Yes.
even through the whole treatment cycle.
Yes.
Because you may or may not notice it at the beginning,
Right.
but by tracking what's going on,
Yes.
there can be clues that when you tell your doctor, they're like, oh, well, here, we can take care of that.
Right. Well,
Or
and another thing that I did that's kind of akin to that is I kept kind of a how am I feeling now journal. I mean, I kept my regular journal where I was writing my, emotional things that were happening, but I also kept a journal that, said, okay, I had chemo on this day. How did I feel the next day? What side effects did I encounter? All of this stuff, because I wanted to be able to track, what's causing this migraine? What did I do this week that I didn't do last week that might help me this week? And I still keep that journal, today. Every time I go to a doctor's appointment, I download everything, into that journal that happened, and track, various changes, so that if the doctor ever asks me, well, when did this start? I know the date, I know where I was, what I was wearing, and everything. So I do think that's really important.
yeah. And later on in the summit, there is a section on meditations.
Mm.
And there's all different kinds of meditations. It's just not sitting crisscross applesauce going on.
Right.
There's so many different kinds available that, yeah, when you listen to that, you can understand what might fit best with.
Right.
So, yeah. And visualizations most people go down the rabbit hole of the negative.
It's easy to do.
It's very easy to do. And I think that intentionally going towards the positive
Right.
takes some work, but it's definitely something that you want to do.
Well, and I'll add this too, Lynn. I would have to say that I might have been a glass half empty person, but I learned very quickly that that's not going to get you anywhere. And you have to be a glass half full person. I would like to think of myself as a glass 3/4 full person, because I just can't emphasize enough. It made so much difference to have that attitude of positivity. And, I would walk into my oncologist appointment, and I would be bouncing in, and then she would be bouncing in, and we were both like upbeat and positive. I left there every single appointment thinking, I can do this. I'm going to make it. If I had gone in with a different attitude, I don't know that I would have felt that way, honestly.
Yeah. And then there are times when you are just tired and exhausted.
Yes.
And it's okay to feel that way too.
Exactly. Exactly. You just have to listen to what your body's telling you to do, and not put undue pressure on yourself. I mean, if you're going through chemo, you're going to have a lot of downtime, and you've got to just, give into it and not fight it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so you're doing a project.
I am doing a project that is about to be released into the world.
Woohoo!
So last September, I officially started writing my memoir, which is called Cancer Don't Care. And I've already talked about, my feelings about that, and how that came into being. But It's really a memoir that I wrote as a way of processing everything that happened to me, but not just during the cancer, but what it's like to be on the other side, how you get to the other side, all that positivity we've been talking about today. And, ultimately I wanted to be able to lift the veil and share my story in a very, raw, personal, emotional way that I hope will resonate with a lot of people, that will, provide them with some insight, some, tips, tricks, hacks, some inspiration for whatever they may be going through. It doesn't have to be cancer. I think there's a lot of universal messages that I've tried to weave within the pages that I think, would really speak to a lot of different people. And, there were so many people that helped me in my journey along the way. And this is just one small way that I'm trying to pay it forward. So I'm looking at launching this by the end of the year, according to my publisher. So I've got information on my website if anybody's interested, and I hope that you are. You can just visit michellesandlin.com. That's MICHELLESANDLIN.com. And you can sign up for pre-ordering or launch details or read more about the book. But it should be coming out here. I'm excited to say now in a few weeks. So I'm very excited, very excited. It's been certainly a labor of love, but it also, forces you to revisit some really horrific moments. But I'm happy to say that my horrific moments were also balanced with a lot of, very positive moments and a lot of laughter and just unexpected joy along the way.
Yeah. So would reading this book be good for the people in the lives of cancer patients?
Oh, absolutely. This book would be great for everyone on the planet.
But
My
it sounds
audience
like,
is big, but
yeah,
I wrote it, with the idea that yes, it would help somebody going through cancer. Yes, it would help those who support people going through cancer, but also help people who are in need of perhaps inspiration or want to read a heartwarming story or want to know more about, what the journey is like. It really, I think it hits a lot of different bases.
yeah, because it sounds like not everybody is forthcoming about what the journey feels like. And it might be good for their loved ones to read it how somebody else experienced it. So they
Yeah, I
have a
mean,
better idea.
yes, for sure. And, while I was going through cancer myself, I mean, even early days of being diagnosed, I immediately, made a video announcement, posted it on social media to let people know that I'd been diagnosed. And I pretty much made the decision there and then that, I wanted to document my journey. I wanted to share, bits and pieces along the way and be able to show people that, yeah, I might not have any hair and I might not have any eyebrows. And I might look like crap, but I'm here. I'm alive. I'm okay. I'm smiling. Here's my wonderful husband. I mean, I wanted people to see, not just hear or wonder if I was okay. And I just had an unbelievable outpouring of support from friends, family, near and far. I mean, I'll never be able to thank everybody enough for just how much they did for me, emotionally and physically, and just with their hearts. I mean, it was incredible.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read it.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to share or anything I forgot to ask?
No, I mean, I think we covered everything. It's been a long journey, but there is life after cancer, and that's the good news. And I'm excited to be able to share this with people. And of course, if anybody out there God forbid, is going through this or needs someone to talk to that maybe doesn't know them, there's a lot of benefit in that too. And please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to visit with you and see if there's something that I can share that will make your journey a little less horrible.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Michelle.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, we will look forward to that book launch.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Lynn.
Uh-huh.